Hi friends, welcome back to another art video. Today we're going to talk about drawing kids. I actually have a commission open that's where I'm going to be drawing a couple of kids, a friend's nephew and niece, and so I think this would be a good opportunity to share with you guys how I draw kids. And I actually drew a little diagram. I like to kind of just build up some blocks, so I make sure that the head and the chest are roughly the same size as the entire legs. So of course this will change depending on the person I'm drawing or depending on the character, but I just like to keep this as my basic building block for drawing kids. I also want to make sure that the younger that the child is, I want to make sure everything is rounded, like rounder, puffier faces, rounder, puffier nose, cheeks, shoulders. Got to make sure that the shoulders are in more, and just like overall just round and bubbly. They haven't grown any features yet. They're just, I don't want to say blobs, but they are blobs starting out, and then as they grow, they elongate, they form some features like jaw lines and stuff. But as kids, it's all just round, round, round. And that's like my basic guideline that I follow. There are other resources out there that will have a lot of other tips for drawing kids, but this is a very good starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and start this commission, and I wanted to show you guys how I use these tips and guidelines in drawing kids for my commissions. So my friend wanted to have a portrait of his nephew and his niece, and wanted to emphasize her swag and emphasize his Cobra Kai-ness. So we're going to try and come up with a basic composition. I'm just going to shape them out first, and then I'm going to go in and refine the details later. But generally with kids, I always want to make sure that the faces are more round and not defined, and shorter in terms of like body proportion. So we're just going to go ahead and make basic head shapes, just to map out where I'm going to compose it, you know. Luckily, he sent over a couple of reference photos that will actually help me in making the composition. This is generally the most messy part of making the commission. So it'll just be like a bunch of squiggly lines, a bunch of sketching. And once I feel like I have the composition and the poses down right, then I like make a new layer and I start going in and defining all the features. In the sketch portion of this, I want to make sure that I am laying out the basic formations of the body. So like where the head is going to tilt, where the chest is going to tilt, you know, I want to make sure that I'm getting all the body movements just right. So I have my basic sketch layered down. I have the very, very basic building blocks of the sketch. I'm going to go ahead and put this on a low opacity, this layer, and start a new layer, and I'm going to go and start defining some more of the features. With kids, I try and make them as rounded and as bubbly as I can. Usually kids aren't as developed, so like their necks won't show that much, or like their shoulders are way more rounded and more tucked into the body. So it's good to keep that in mind when you're designing kids, doing character development for kids, and keeping the proportions as short as possible. The bigger the head, the smaller the body, the more kid-like they're gonna look. So now that I have the basic body pretty much like mapped out for the nephew, he's the older one, if you guys can tell. I'm gonna go in and start adding the little details on his face, his fingers. I want to make sure that his fingers are not super defined, like they're more rounded and more curved. Because he is a kid, his kid's fingers are just shorter and like fatter. They're like little tiny sausages. So I just want to make sure that I'm not making like pointy nails or anything. For the eyes, I know I want to make them big because they're like curious, they're big, they're like ready to take on the world. One thing too is once you have your basic shape down, always, like you can always use your eraser to chip away certain parts of the drawing just to make it rounder. So like his chin was a little bit pointed for my liking, so I just like kind of just round out the shape by using my eraser. It's I usually like opt for my eraser to like kind of to make more either more edges angular or more rounded, and it's better than just having to erase the entire thing and just redrawing it until you like it perfectly. Just go straight for an eraser. It'll do just about the same and you have a little bit more control. So I am finished with the nephew, and I did some tweaking here and there in between using my eraser tool and just going in and making sure that certain places are rounded, like his chin, his jawline. I even went and like made his eyes bigger, like super big and super bright. I made the shine in there as big as I can to make him look like he's like, I'm ready. So now I'm gonna go and move on towards his sister, and she is a couple of years younger, so I want to make sure that I accentuate those features, and I want to make sure her eyes are bigger and her nose is smaller and she has more rounded cheeks, and that her head is way just generally a rounder shape. And I want to make sure like her neck barely shows, because we don't really develop until we hit like puberty. So usually with little kids, like they slowly start to elongate. So as a baby, you don't really have like that much of a neck, you know? So I want to make sure that, you know, she's just like has the rounded face, the short neck, and the rounded shoulders. And I want to make her look super like girly too. So I'm going to give her a few more curves to her shirt, in comparison to what the nephew is wearing in the gi, where it's just more like fold, it's big, it's like bulky. I want to make sure that she's like smoother, softer, and just more princess-like. So here I want to make sure that her arms are short in proportion to her body. So like I want to make the edge of the shirt like close to her elbow to kind of emphasize that fact. So now that I know more or less where the little girl is gonna be, I am going to go ahead and start masking some of my layers and erasing a few of the areas that are overlapping so that I don't get like line overwhelm, if that makes sense. So I'm not just seeing like a bunch of random lines. I want to keep the sketch simple and clean as I continue adding more details. Now that I went ahead and erased some of the little boy layer, the nephew layer, the brother layer, I think I want to like have his hand coming over her to kind of connect the two. But once I add in her face and her details, maybe I'll see where I can put a hand that can be seen after all the details are put in. So I got the basic body down. Now I'm going to go into her face. And because she's going to be wearing these cute little pineapple sunglasses, I kind of want to make them as large as I can and as round as I can. And then after that, it's just doing the little tiny tweaks, putting the hand somewhere, maybe, and then just sending it to my friend for his approval. So here is the final drawing. I'm going to send it to my friend in a little bit. I hope he loves it. And I hope you find this video helpful. I hope you can utilize some of these tips and these guidelines when you're getting ready to draw kids, either for character development or for portraiture. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, bye friends.